time for the second part of the 8th inning. Remember, it was Michael, and I think what Michael's trying to do is pitch a game where the other team does not score. That's what I think is happening. So the second inning is also more into Michael and his game that he's playing. Fulton Street, Pawn and Loan didn't score in their bottom half of the inning, even though they did muster 2 hits. In the bottom of the 4th, Michael faced the other team's top 3 hitters again, registering a strikeout and a ground out to Adam for the first 2 outs of the inning. Then the big double hitters came to the plate, and Michael knew he wouldn't fall for a barrage of inside pitches again. He looked in to see what Carlos was thinking. Carlos put down the sign for an inside fastball. Michael sighed. With just a fastball and a changeup, his off-speed pitch, he didn't have many options. He nodded to Carlos. Even if they didn't go there the entire at-bat, he could throw an inside fastball that at least set the batter up, make him think that's what they were going to do again this time. But Michael didn't want to waste a pitch, to throw one that did nothing but delay confrontation. Instead, he aimed for the edge of the plate, looking maybe to get a called strike if the umpire was in a generous mood and the big hitter was expecting junk. The hitter took the pitch. "Strike one," the umpire called. The big guy slumped his shoulders and looked back at the umpire, questioning the call without saying a word. His coach said something about it, though, giving the umpire an earful from the dugout. Carlos threw the ball back to Michael, and he looked in again. Fastball inside. Michael shook his head. Carlos wanted a repeat of the first at-bat, but Michael knew this guy wouldn't let another close strike go by without doing something with it, and he wasn't going to swing at something too far in. Behind the plate, Carlos shrugged as if to say, "Okay, what then?" Carlos put down the sign for a fastball anyway. Michael nodded. It was worth a shot, and the hitter might be expecting more inside stuff. But Michael would really have to waste one now. If he put it anywhere near the plate, the hitter would tattoo it into right field. Never heard that before. Tattoo it into right field? Michael took a deep breath, aimed, and let his fastball fly. The hitter was ready for it, eager for anything he could reach out for, and he lunged after the fastball like a golfer. "Strike 2," the umpire called. Michael snapped the ball back in his glove and nodded to Carlos. They had the guy on the ropes. He peered in for the sign. Carlos dropped 2 fingers. That's what the catcher does. They tell him the pitcher what to throw. The curveball. Was Carlos crazy? A third of the time, it bounced to the plate, and a third of the time it floated in like the fastest, most hittable pitch the batter had ever seen. Sure, there was the other kind of the third time when it broke just right, and when it came looking like a fastball and then dove away at the last second, leaving batters flailing. But there was no way he could take the chance. He shook Carlos off. Carlos's catcher's mask tilted sideways, and Michael knew what he was wondering. If not now, when? Michael sighed again. Carlos was right, and he knew it. The pitch wouldn't get to be perfect if he didn't use it, and a 2-strike count was the time to try it. He motioned for Carlos to cycle through the pitches one more time and nodded at the sign for a curveball. "Drop in there," Michael whispered as he went into his windup. "Drop in there, drop in there, drop in there." He released, staring the ball down as it flew closer, 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 but didn't drop. It hung like a fat breaking ball, and the big Bob Smith Ford hitter took a late greedy hack at it. The ball pinged off his bat and flew straight back into the chain-link fence backstop behind the plate. Thwack! Rattling the no pepper sign. The big hitter glanced back at Michael like he couldn't believe the gift he'd just been given, and he kicked at the dirt for not blasting the ball for a home run. "All right, enough of that then," Michael said. He got a new ball from Carlos, and they went back to square one. Another fastball anyway? No, another fastball inside. Can you see Cart? There's McCartney, our cat. What's she doing? Cart, you like this? Can you say hi, Cart? Oh.
Oh, hi, Candy Girl.
Oh, I lost my spot. Another fastball away? No. Another fastball inside? No. An off-speed pitch way outside? No. Everybody always wanted to waste pitches when they had a 2-strike count, like they had 3 balls they could throw anywhere. What was the point of wasting a good count just to run it back 3 balls and 2 strikes? Carlos called a timeout and jogged to the mound. You gotta call something, amigo. I say, try the curveball again. No, Michael said. He grasped for something, anything he could use to get him out. Change up low, bottom of the strike zone. Why not waste a couple first? Get him guessing. Michael shook his head. He's too smart for that. Let's go with the low changeup. Carlos shrugged and jogged back to the plate, and Michael kneaded the ball in his hands. When his catcher was set, he went into his windup, then slowed his delivery down, aiming for the bottom of the strike zone. The ball took an eternity to get there, and he watched as he followed through. The hitter waited, hitched his shoulder, and then swung. The bat met the ball with a resounding ping of aluminum, but he drove the ball down into the ground. It tore a divot into the earth 4 feet in front of home and bounced to short, where George made a quick work of it and threw the batter out at first. Michael pumped his fist and slapped Carlos on the back as they ran back in the dugout. 4 innings in the books. 4 perfect innings. Michael was up first for Fulton Street Pawn and Loan, and he grabbed his helmet and bat and walked out to the plate while the other pitcher took a few warm-up tosses. Perfect through 4 innings, that was something, but a lot of pitchers had been perfect for 4 innings. Perfect for 9 innings was a different thing altogether. There had only been 10 perfect games in the history of Major League Baseball. Grandma Cat loved to tell the story of being there for Sandy Koufax's perfect game in 1965. But as good as he was, Sandy Koufax had never thrown another. Tom Seaver and a host of others hadn't thrown any. A perfect game was practically impossible, wasn't it? Especially for Michael. He'd walk someone, or there would be a blue pit, or one of his teammates would throw 3 feet over Adam's head at first for an error. Besides, none of that was going to matter if they didn't get some runs. The score was still 0-0. Michael did his best at the plate, but the pitcher was too good for him. Even when he could guess what was coming, he still couldn't do much with it, grounding back out to the mound and getting tossed out easily at first. Coach Clemens clapped as he ran back into the dugout. Coach Clemens clapped for everything, from a home run to a strikeout. But nobody said anything to Michael as he made his way down to the end of the bench. He sat next to Adam and Carlos, but neither of them said anything either. So I've got an idea, Michael said, about who the other Jedi is. He paused, trying to build suspense for his punchline. It's Chewbacca! Michael grinned, expecting Adam to laugh, and Carlos to get upset that they were still making fun of him. But Adam just looked at his feet, and Carlos worked at cleaning the dirt from his cleats. It could be Chewbacca, Adam said. Michael looked around at his friends. What was wrong with them? Had he done something to make them mad? Before he could ask, the last batter of the inning struck out, and Coach Clemens was rallying everyone back out onto the field. Michael walked up onto the mound, still wondering what he'd said to make his friends upset. But if something was wrong, Carlos didn't show it behind the plate. He was all business at the bottom of the half of the inning got going, and they made quick work of the next 3 batters in the lineup, setting them down 1, 2, 3. Coach Clemens clapped as Michael ran past him into the dugout, but he didn't say anything. The whole bench was quiet, and Adam and Carlos sat near Michael but wouldn't even look at him. Michael's little brother David, standing right behind the chain-link fence and eating a moon pie, was the only one who even acknowledged his presence. Everybody's talking about you, David said. What? In the stands. Everybody is talking about your perfect game, David remembers the brother. Adam and Carlos glared at David but said nothing. So that's what this was about? His teammates all knew he had a perfect game through 5 innings and nobody wanted to say or do anything to jinx it. Mr. Robinson said it's impossible. Shut up, Michael said. Dad thinks you can do it, though. Shut up, he said, Adam and Carlos joining him this time. His friends frowned at Michael as if to say, don't jinx it. Coach Clemens called Carlos's name, and he got up to hit. I'm telling Mom you told me to shut up. So go tell her and leave me alone. David turned to go. Wait! Michael ignored the glare from Adam and went to the back corner of the dugout to whisper through the fence with David. What does Grandma Cat say? David shrugged. Ask her what she thinks I should do about that big guy, their number 3 hitter. I have to get him out one more time. Ask her what I should do. David took another bite of his moon pie. So go already. David wandered off, and Michael watched as Carlos hit into a double play. 4 pitches later, Ramon was down on strikes, and the half inning was over. It was time for Michael to face the bottom of the 6th. He walked out to his position more slowly this time, trying to calm down and think about how he was going to get the next 3 batters out. It was the bottom 3 hitters again, but Michael didn't want to fall asleep and let one of them sneak something by, like the 9th batter almost had the last time. Michael climbed the mound and took off his hat to wipe the sweat away. It was mid-morning now, and the summer sun was shining right down on him. He looked around the bleachers to find his family and realized for the first time that the crowd was larger than it had been before. The stands were full, and there were people scattered up and down the foul lines, and they were all looking for perfection. A lot of pressure on Michael now. Michael put his cap back down tight and looked in at Carlos. The first batter they worked up and in, and then down and away. Strikeout. The next batter swung at the first pitch and drove it to right. The crowd gasped and Michael's heart skipped a beat, but then he saw it was a routine and watched as Raul put it away. After his near heart attack, Michael vowed to put the last batter away without letting him make contact, and he struck him out on 5 pitches. The crowd burst into applause at the strikeout, surprising Michael and his teammates. There were even more people watching now, people who must have come from one of the other 6 Prospect Park fields where games were being played. Michael and his teammates stood at their positions for a few seconds, unsure of how to handle their newfound attention, then came to their senses and ran off the field. Michael now had no company at the end of the bench, silent or otherwise. Adam and Carlos found excuses to be at the far end of the dugout, and Michael sat all alone. It wouldn't have mattered anyway. The dugout was as quiet as a classroom during a test. Quiet as a classroom during a test? All right, boys, Coach Clemens said, breaking the strange silence. Top of the 7th. I don't think I need to tell anyone how much we need a run right now. Do I? Nobody answered. All right, then. Let's do it. And come on, I want to hear a little chatter in here. I want everybody to loosen up, all right? Who's seen the new Clash of the Titans movie, huh? Michael had seen it, but he didn't want to talk about it. Neither did anyone else on the team, it seemed. All he could think about was the perfect game. Where was David? Had he gone to talk to Grandma Cat? Or was he off the concession stand again? That's my kid's favorite place at a baseball game, the concession stand where they can get snacks. As long as they bring me back. What is it? Oh, Cowtails. Cowtails. Michael took off his hat and rubbed at his temples. He wanted perfection more than anything. A perfect game, and he was 3 innings away. But how could he get through that lineup one more time? The Fulton Street Pawn and Loan leadoff hitter drew a walk, then stole second. It was the first runner they'd had in a scoring position all game. But Michael was only half paying attention. In his mind, he was going over every pitch he had thrown that game to every batter. How had he gotten the number 2 batter out in the 4th? What had the number 6 hitter done with the off-speed pitch he'd thrown him in the 2nd? Michael closed his eyes and tried to think. What could he do to keep things perfect? He did not want to screw this up. A blunt got the run of the 3rd as Michael hurried down the bench to Tim's little brother Chris, who kept score for the team. I need to see the scorebook, Michael told him. Chris was a few years younger than Michael, maybe 9 like David, and he was usually quiet around the older kids on the team. Now a 13-year-old was talking to him, and Michael wasn't just any 13-year-old. He was the one pitching a perfect game, the one nobody wanted to talk to. Chris looked to the other boys for help, but nobody would look at him. He started, then just handed Michael the book. Despite the fact that he should be recording the run Fulton Street Pawn and Loan was scoring right then off a sacrifice fly. The crowd cheered the run, but Michael ignored them, poring over the ledger for the other team. Strikeout, ground out, pop foul, strikeout. The scorebook wouldn't tell him the pitches he'd thrown, just the outcomes, but he could recognize the rest himself. As he stared at the boxes on the page, the impossibility of it all stood out even more. Out, out, out. 18 boxes, 18 hitters, 18 outs. Not one person had reached first base. No hits, no errors, no walks. No hitter had even gotten a full count. The enormity of it all, the craziness of it, was almost overwhelming. The half inning ended without another run scoring, but Fulton Street Pawn and Loan now led 1-0. Coach Clemens came back into the dugout clapping. All right, he told his team. All right, he looked at Michael. All right. Any other day, the boys would have been laughing, but not today. Michael understood what his coach meant. The team had gotten Michael his one run, the one run he needed to win, and that was all he was going to get. Now it was up to him to go out and be perfect. So I think I'm going to have to look up a little bit more about the perfect game. Hold on. Come here, Cart. You can say hi. Cart is a little fat. Right, Cart? Yeah, I know. She doesn't like it when I call her that. So I'll look that up for tomorrow and tell you what that means. I think I know, but I'm not sure. And I know this tractor is a little tricky because it's a lot of baseball terminology. So I know it might be a little hard for you to get because it's hard to picture if you're not used to exactly what the terms mean for a baseball game. But we will finish up chapter 3 tomorrow, and I'll look into a little bit more about the perfect game. Cart, you want to say goodbye? No, she doesn't. All right, see you tomorrow.